Batman Superman World's Finest, issue 44, Mark Waid and Mark Russell writing together with Lucas Meyer on the art. This was a good issue of this book, and I don't know how to process that, because I've been kind of like swimming in middling numbers for the last 25 issues.
Hey, Mark Waid, just hand this over. Hand the keys to Mark Russell, please. I miss having a regular Mark Russell book in my read list.
I didn't know it was co-written when I read it. I just thought, oh, this is another example of Mark Waid being very good when he's really focused, and it's not like tons of fights with lots of characters. It's just, we're going to have this story about Robin and Supergirl, and it's going to be very fun. Even the setup at the start where Batman's like, hey, I sent Robin to investigate this company that may be up to something, and Superman's like, hey, Lois found out that company's actually a subsidiary of LexCorp. Like, maybe Robin should have some backup. And Batman's like, yeah, but it can't be, like, I'm sorry, Batman, but like, Crypto's here doing that, and this other character's off doing that. It kind of needs to be Supergirl. And he's like, okay, fine, but let Robin have his pride. Tell her to just watch him from afar, and only to get involved if absolutely necessary. So it sets up this thing where Robin, Dick Grayson, and even her reaction, by the way, because we see her get the call. She's in like her civilian clothes with the brunette hair, and she gets the call, and she just like, has a thought bubble with the word shit in it. Well, obviously censored, but that's the, or maybe even an F-bomb, whatever you want to read that as.
Yep.
So the comedy here is so on point, because Supergirl's flying above, right? Dick's like in civilian clothes, and you actually hear a bit of a phone call with Batman, where Batman's like, hey, Dick, you need to make sure you're not in your, they can't know Robin's around. You have to be inconspicuous. And then you see what Robin's wearing. He's wearing green trousers, a red like vest over a green t-shirt, and a yellow like sweater over his shoulders. He's wearing his entire color set in civilian clothes. And then you just get a panel of Supergirl face palming and saying, God, you're an idiot.
This is how Dick Grayson dressed in the animated series when he was Dick Grayson. This same fit down to the sweater. So I think that was a nice pull as well.
Yeah,
here.
I just for me it was the comedy here. It was like her just being judgmental. Like Dick starts listening to a podcast in the car that's like a sort of like self-help kind of build yourself up kind of thing, and she's just like making comments about, oh, this is pathetic, and making faces as she's flying above. Like, all of that was really funny, and I think their interactions throughout this issue are really good. I'm not sure what the end game is here, because obviously this is set in the past, and because I thought like obviously they're not destined to be together, because Dick's destined to be with Babs, and it's kind of funny that they had one date and it went terribly and they hate each other and it's all very awkward. This though goes down the route where by the end, even though they're fighting the whole time, they end up kissing and smooching by the end. So very funny, very Xander and Cordelia from the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer, if I must.
I was going to ask you if it reminded you of any television show.
Yes. And, well, I hate you. Well, I hate you. Feels like. Romantic music.
I hate you more. But
so, all this is good fun. Dick goes undercover in a lab coat, pretends to be someone doing an inspection. The woman just does not buy it at all. It was funny though, is I read this right after Wonder Woman, so when he said he's here to inspect mice, actually made me laugh. Not because it was funny on its own, but just because I just read Wonder Woman.
Yeah. Also, he gives his name as Mr. Robinson.
Oh, that's right.
Which gave me a chuckle. Which this is why I was feeling the Mark Russell vibes in there. The podcast that he's listening to is called Second Banana, and it's all about being the number two person behind someone more successful.
Yeah, he's like,
and how to cope with
the bottom of the pillar is the strongest part, and it's integral to keeping everything up. And it's like, all right.
And so that felt very Mark Russell to me. The Mr. Robinson part, where it's very, we understand why it's silly, but in the world it seems fine. Also, the idea that there's someone who's clearly like 16 is here as the inspector is absurd in and of itself. Kara sees him fighting his way through some guards with her X-ray vision, so she ultimately comes booming in, and he's like, "Oh, where did you come from?" And
I loved her line here. I was asked to babysit you by you know who. Side note, haha. Like she's rubbing it in. Like you need a chaperone. You weren't trusted to be by yourself. But then she looks like a bit of an idiot because then Dick yells out, "Oh, you fool! This place is making kryptonite." And then she gets wiped out and she wakes up. And even this part with the thought bubbles where she's like, "Please don't be tied to Robin. Please don't be tied to Robin." And then she sort of looks over her shoulder. The art here is very good. The way she kind of like scrunches and looks over, and then again for the second time in the issue, she drops like an F-bomb or whatever, censored, and she's like, "Oh shit, it is him." And so
this, delightful. You know what? The attitude here feels very much with the Supergirl that we see that's going to be coming up in the movie. Kind of rough around the edges, not afraid to drop an F-bomb.
Oh, from Women of Tomorrow, yeah.
So. Feels very much. So I appreciate that in the when you mentioned that the second time, you know.
I have to admit, I was quite down on that last issue of Supergirl, and this isn't doing it any favors because I kind of like this voice for Supergirl quite a bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't disagree. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so they bicker a little bit, and there's some fun back and forth here. She's criticizing his dumb plan, and he's like, "No, it was a good plan. You walk in with complete confidence. 90% of the time it works. The other 10% of the time, that's good to keep me on my toes. It keeps me good to think on my feet." So on and so on. So all of the reactions here on their faces, or even the fact that he keeps yelling out things to the guard that's meant to be watching them, he's like, "Hey, Dave." Like, can you get us a slice of pizza? Or he's like, stop yelling at me. So all this super entertaining. And then when this guy Dave comes in and says, "Hey, you guys, it's healthy to argue when you're in a relationship, but not bickering. Bickering leads to bad things. But it's good to get out what your grievances are." And then they both yell in unison, "We're not dating," which also gave me a laugh. And then Dave just eats a slice of his pizza, but also his podcast like makes him or what he says makes him shed a tear. It's like a little weird moment.
Well, so the podcast he's listening to is about relationships.
Yes.
So clearly he's having issues at home. And so he's using this newfound information from his podcast to break down their relationship. And so when he sees them effectively working as a team and communicating, that's what makes him shed that tear. And I thought that was so funny.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, the chains that are tying them up are like kind of kryptonite chains, which is why they're working on her, just for the record.
It's synthetic kryptonite, so it's not making her sick, but it sapped her strength.
Yeah.
So she has just regular strength, right? So, which led to a very funny, they're tied to the chairs together, and Dick stands up, and now she's like a backpack on him because the chains are still tied.
Well, they do a little trick first, but she has to like use her super breath to suck in like the key card that's right on the other side of the room, and then she passes it to him, and then Dick shows off by like throwing it with his mouth into the key card slot. And then like you said, like he stands up and she's like a backpack, and he has to like do some fighting with her on his back. Eventually though, they're able to like break through the chains, and the fight ensues. And she's like, "Oh God, we make a good team, don't we?" Like in her head, she's not like saying that out loud. And it's all fun. But then obviously he like ruins it at one point by saying, "You're welcome for being saved, Supergirl." And she's like, "I'm being saved." So all very fun. I got a good chuckle out of that. And then he presses a big red button to see what it does, and it turns out to be a self-destruct thing. So we see everyone like sort of run out of the building, kind of diving, but like she picks him up and flies him away and kisses him when they're flying. And then the end of the issue is they're in like a car, clearly like kissing, but they accidentally set off like a basically like an emergency beacon for Batman, and he's like, "Shit, we need to find that," and she's like, why, and then sure enough, like Batman rips the door open like a minute later, and they both yell out, "We're not dating," and then Superman shows up saying, "I heard the signal, I brought coffee," and then Supergirl just gets frustrated and flies off. It's funny.
So it's a proximity beacon, right? It lets them know when Batman's close or he's close to Batman, right? And he never activates it because he never needs to. She activated it, so it essentially is a homing beacon for Bruce to find them, which then leads to Clark finding them, and it was a very, very fun reveal.
Well, I thought it was something that was meant to be like a beacon to call Batman in, and that's why Dick was free. Because that's why Batman bursts into the car with like a gas mask on. He's thinking there's something wrong.
Well, he says it's my proximity beacon. It's supposed to activate when I'm in serious danger.
Yes.
And I didn't activate it when. Yeah. All right. So
Yeah.
it lets him know when
That's what
he's
I meant.
close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a come help me as an emergency button.
Yes.
So yeah, Batman comes bursting in, and then he's like, "Wait, you and Kara?" And Kara's just like, "Oh, why men? I can't believe." And she's like, "You owe me one, Robin," and she flies off, and that's the end of the issue. Yeah, this was easily the best issue of this book in years. Like, and I legitimately mean years, like at least 2 years. It might be the best issue of the entire book. I'd have to go back and actually think about it and check the others, but like I had a blast reading this one, and I was not expecting that because every month we go to read World's Finest, and I'm like, just time to slog through this Bizarro arc or whatever we're doing right now.
Yep.
But this was delightful.
Eclipso arc, a Bizarro arc, and now we get this as a nice little thing. And Lucas Meyer art also always fantastic, right?
Yep. Yeah, the art's good.
It's that vibe, and a lot of the stuff with the, like you mentioned, the expressions and then the action, the breakdowns there. It was just fun to read because it felt like it was constantly moving. Like it had a bounce to it, right?
Yeah,
like it never took its time, you know.
Unlike a lot of the issues of this book, it felt like the story had a good focus and through line, so you were never like feeling overwhelmed with what the story was, and it let the main focus be the character interactions, and a lot of the art there really shines when it's like showing like their reactions to each other. And it was usually Kara, it was usually Supergirl like making a face because she thinks Dick's being an idiot and she's annoyed at him. I almost hope if they keep doing these types of like Robin Supergirl issues that eventually they do like officially kind of break up, or maybe there's still kind of a thing when like Babs is introduced is like a thing in the timeline. I love the idea of there being like an awkwardness between Kara and Babs because he used to date her. Like I kind of like the idea of that coming up at some point. I don't know if they'll ever get to that point. I don't know if they get any plans to ever do Batgirl in this timeline, but
no. Well, and two, just the idea too that Babs is older than them, right? Too. So having that add in there, you know, how she's supposed to compete with Supergirl type vibe. So that could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was delightful. I had a good time. Art was good. What are you giving World's Finest, Matt?
Giving this an 8.5.
I think I agree. With 8.5. That is the highest score that's had in a long time.
Wow.